Powered by Fantasyverse. Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
Welcome to a very special edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for the home of pop culture positivity. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also Nerd Initiative Editor-in-Chief. Joining me on this episode, you know him as the host of Wrestling Night Live every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Nerd Initiative YouTube, but he's also one of our featured comic book editors at the Nerd Initiative Bullpen. Please say hello to Rich.
That is right. We are back on a different time and day, but with an awesome interview. So this is going to be a fun one. Hope everybody is ready, especially since it's coming out so early in the morning.
Well, you got to get up early for this, and you want to make sure you get to the comic shops early because there is an event coming out from Comics' Most Exciting Universe. I've said it once, and I've said it a million times, and I'm going to keep saying it. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is doing superheroes like the Massiverse from Image Comics. And what you're seeing here is event after event after event. And this issue that we're going to be discussing is no exception. But then again, if you've been reading this series, this is just another day at the office because the life and times of Dylan Siegel is anything but ordinary. It is exciting. It is mind-blowing. There is a lot of twists and turns that you have to follow up on. But where we're going with issue 30 is a crossover event that's been planted since 2023 in the pages of Supermassive. We're finally getting a payoff per se. I don't know, but I'm locked in for it, and you should be too. And we are very fortunate enough to have the writer of this amazing book on the line with us. You know his work from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, The Infernals, which more people need to go out and buy because that is one of the most slept-on series in recent memories from Image Comics. Justice League, The Atom Project, and the upcoming It Killed Everybody But Me, dropping from Mad Cave Studios to September 10th. But let's face it, every time you go to the comic shops, he's got everybody going rogue in the pages of the Massiverse pillar book, Rogue Sun. It is our honor and privilege to bring back the one and only writer of Rogue Sun, Ryan Parrott. Ryan, what is going on?
Wow, that was impressive. My mom, I hope my mom got to hear that because I feel more my father, and my father would finally be proud of me. Thank you very much for all that.
Oh, it's well deserved and then some, my friend. What can we say? Rogue Sun is, every time the issue comes out, it feels like an event. And what you're doing with Dylan Siegel and his crazy family life mixed in with the supernatural has been a must read every time it's come out. But this issue that we're discussing, Rogue Sun number 30, which is dropping October 15th. The FOC is slated September 22nd. But we can't stress enough. Get to the comic shops early. Get yourself a few copies. You're not going to want to miss out on this. This has been planted since Supermassive 2023. But how did the whole process of getting Medieval Spawn into the Massiverse happen for this issue?
Oh man, it was a lot of like chance and circumstance. It was very, very lucky. I've been a huge fan. I mean, look, I've said it many times. It's like I think I was 14 when Image started. I think when I remember buying Spawn number 1. I remember buying Wildcats and Savage Dragon and Troll and Super Patriot and every single Image book there was. And so, but like Spawn always had a special place in my heart. Especially, I liked it so much. I asked my mom to read it because I was like, my mom's pretty religious, and I was like, there's like angels and like the devil, and they're talking about God. That was a terrible decision because she was like, you can't read this anymore. But I would have to sneak it out and like had a little thing in the garage where I would hide my comics. But so I loved it for so long, and so and Kyle knew of that love, and so we were at New York Comic Con. And as Todd McFarlane was walking down the hall, like walking down the different rows, and Kyle saw him and was like, do you want me to introduce you? And I was like, God, no, please don't. I don't want to embarrass myself. And he did it anyways. And what the coolest thing was when Kyle introduced me, Todd goes, oh, Rogue Sun, I know that. And I was like floored that he even knew that I was doing that book. And so we started talking, like, it was just like that excitement came out of that. And so we were right in the middle of, we were doing Supermassive. And so we thought, Todd like is very, very supportive of the Image books and especially superheroes and all that stuff. And so Kyle reached out and said, hey, is there any chance you'd be willing to let us put Medieval Spawn in this thing? Cause that's my favorite iteration of that character. I love, it's issue 14, the one where Violator does that whole tells the story about how he first fought Medieval Spawn,
Like
and
he's the narrator, right?
yeah, and it's all opposite of what you actually see in the
Yep.
book. That was the inspiration a little bit for the flip book issue that I did later on, which is that idea of like contrasting the caption stuff. So I think I put the germ in my head. So yeah, we reached out and asked if we could do that, and TaP was like, yeah, you can put him in the back there, but there was no guarantee that we could get to do more. And so when we were writing Rogue Sun and moving it along, we got to the point where we brought Caleb back in the story, and I said, we've got a medieval. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'd be lying if I didn't say that when I created Night Sun and medieval Rogue Sun, that I wasn't kind of hoping maybe that would open up a window or a door or whatever. So yeah, so we reached out to Todd and said, hey, we have this opportunity where we could possibly sort of pay off that small little cameo into a more complicated thing, and Todd was 100% gung-ho for it. And so he said, yeah, I the number one thing I didn't want is I didn't want him to think that we were trying to like use him to like boost the numbers and get people excited about the, that's not, I don't want, it's complete adulation and just wanting to write the characters that I love. And so it was such a crazy thing. We pitched him a story and he was 100%.
That's amazing. And especially like he's, and he's so very pro, everything going on with Image, and the fact that he's reading Rogue Sun too. I mean, that's what an honor right there.
I mean, yeah, it's a pinch me, man. It was like, it's like Paul McCartney being like, I heard your song, man. It's really
good. Now I wish I was there because I'm sure you handled it better than I would have, because I'd have been like, I just would have stared at him and been like,
like the Wayne Pool.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing is he's so like, he just kind of wanders around. Like, he really does go, when he goes to the conventions, he's just like, oh no, I'm not going to stay upstairs. I'm going to go. I'm sure he causes mad pandemonium for fans and whatnot, but like, it's just like, it's like seeing him, and like, I've seen him, and I met Rob Liefeld one time about it. And like, Rob is also such a big part, like, right. I think he was like the first rock star comic book writer that I ever knew about, besides Stan Lee or something like that.
Yeah.
So like, meeting the founders of Image, like, they are like mini gods to me, because like they showed that you could go and do superhero comic books away from the big two and be successful at it. And without them doing that, I don't think we have none of the books. Rogue Sun certainly doesn't exist. None of the Massiverse exists. None of the Valiant doesn't. None of that stuff exists without them taking that plunge.
Yeah, just thinking back to like that time period too. I mean, it was so unheard of. Like growing up, like that's my era too. Growing up and then hearing like, okay, all these creators are leaving Marvel and now starting their own thing, and then you're seeing their own books and just where they take their characters, like, and everyone had a different vibe to it, and you see a lot of parallels with that with the Massiverse too. So like I say, just having that kind of synergy there. I mean, it's an incredible thing to watch and read.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the coolest thing about getting, like, I was standing like right here when we called him. I was like, hey, can we do it? And he was like, I thought it was gonna be this. I thought he was gonna be way more like, well, like, tell me the pitch, what's going on, like, who's this Ryan, like, what's the, like, it was all bullshit, right? And like, but he was just like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, that's it? We don't have to like pitch him anymore? He's like, well, like, tell me the story. But like, he was so gung-ho to begin with that we're like, oh, okay. It's like, it'd be like if I'm like, I'm gonna sell you the car, but like, like come along with me. Like, it was like he took all the pressure off me because he seemed so excited about it. So yeah, it's, I think he I'm not going to say that he looks at us as like, but I think he gets what we're trying to do. I think he understands that we are trying to follow, meekly in his footsteps as best we can.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on. So this issue is going to be a standalone crossover event, obviously of great magnitude. So everybody rush out and order your copy now. So with that being said, if this is somebody's first time jumping in, because it is a standalone, I got to ask, what is the elevator pitch for, not just in this case, usually I do the elevator pitch, but not just this issue, but Rogue Sun as a whole, for somebody who might be picking up this book for the first time?
Oh boy, if they're picking up this book at the first time, they might be a little confused. They won't be. So the way that I treated it was, we treated it as if you've never read a Spawn comic book, that you can pick this up, and we basically lay out exactly who Medieval Spawn is, what their relationship is to in that world, and the relationship between, and this is the first encounter between Caleb and Medieval Spawn. So you'll be able to figure it out as you go into it. And I think we lay out pretty well kind of what the Rogue Sun is. You get the sense that they are, that it's a fiery knight who's out there trying to do good with and fight against monsters from another realm, which is ironically very similar to what Spawn is doing, which might be part of the story. This idea that maybe these two who are in the, Spawn's obviously medieval Spawn is trying to make up for a bad life by trying to hunt down the forces of evil and sort of redeem himself in hell in Heaven's eyes. Same thing with Rogue Sun. Rogue Sun is trying to protect our world from the invasion of sort of an otherworldly being, and the idea is that they finally face a foe that requires both of them to sort of figure out a way to not only work together and to sort of overcome it. So it's a little bit of that setup. I actually might have just said too much already, but I think you get it. It's a comic. We'll get it. I don't think that'll ruin it if they're like, wait a minute. Yeah. So.
No, I mean, I think
is that a good pitch? I don't know.
No, that's a good pitch.
Okay, good. All right, cool. I trust you guys.
I feel like that sells. It sells everybody. I mean, obviously, ourselves, we've been reading both Rogue Sun, of course, Spawn and Medieval Spawn. So therefore, we kind of know the characters. But I feel like if somebody didn't know one or the other, that pitch really kind of just drives home that this is kind of a similar to what you're used to, but little differences, and that's what you're going to dive into in the issue.
The fun part of it was I guess I could, I could say this is fine. I think my favorite part about it is you are going to meet a younger version of Caleb than you've seen. Because obviously he died, so he was older when you met him, so you're at that age.
Yeah.
But this is him at a younger stage. He's much more naive. He's still trying to get his feet sort of planted firmly on the ground as Rogue Sun. And so I think that's the part that's fun is you get a better sense of. I'm not gonna say it's like it's a little bit of the Back to the Future of it all. It's like it's fun to see your parents the same age you are. Like seeing him Dylan's age or around that area is a very different Caleb than the Caleb that we've met in the books. And you'll see how this encounter with Medieval Spawn might set his life in a very specific direction.
Yeah,
so there's lore in this. Like even though it's a standalone crossover, if you like Rogue Sun, there's questions that are answered in this that are stuff that we have hinted at, directions we sort of like. This will have ramifications later on in the story. It's not just let's go on this little adventure and do this. There's a very specific route that this is playing into in the larger story of the Massiverse.
I mean, like I say, I was already sold on this, but then again, I've been reading this since 2022 when the first issue came out. Supermassive. But this is, like I say, one thing that you always do is you always kind of throw in those Easter eggs and really kind of do the long-term storytelling, but especially with the Rogues gallery that you have. And like Rogue Sun is quietly making an argument for like the best Rogues gallery in comics. Like it's up there, gaining ground on like the Batman, the Spider-Mans, and the Flash, which I mean, that's always been my trinity of the three. But you've seen so many different varieties of villains come through there. Which one has been your favorite to write and why?
My favorite to write. I think my favorite to write really, and this is probably if you listen to another interview, I might have different things. It sort of changes with the week and whichever one I'm working on at the time. I really like Demonica. Demonica ended up being a really fun character to write because we found in trying to find a different voice for her, like we started to get into this idea of her being able to smell sort of the issue, like the problems that you have, which I thought was a really fun little thing of like how she can tap into like, oh, she sniffs you and you're like, oh, there's some codependency and some father issues and all that stuff. And I thought that was like a fun little detail. Noxious ended up being a way more complicated character than he was originally intended to be. He was going to be a one-off villain. And what I realized is we had just done one-off villains. Like when I say one-off, like he was just going to be in the opening or in that first issue of 25. And I liked the design so much because he looked like a real villain. He looked like a punk rock kind of bad guy. And I was like, well, I knew I wanted to do a story about the differences between Dylan and Marcus's perception of what's right and wrong and evil and who are bad guys and who are not. And so I thought, well, wait a minute, I've got this guy who looks like a quintessential Rogue Sun bad guy. It might be really fun to sort of flip it a little bit and make him more of a Mr. Freeze kind of character where once you actually find out why he is what he is, you might have a very different perception on whether or not he's the bad guy or if he's just on a revenge quest or whatever. And so that was where that character became more fun to write as we went along, simply because I was trying to write a contrast to what he looked like. And then I have a villain coming up in 31 that I'm very, very happy with called Mr. Poe, who is a cat.
A cat?
Ooh, he's a cat.
Okay.
Yep. I will say no more. He's a cat. He is probably the meanest character we've had in the book. and I quite like him. There's a lot of fun. You saw him in 30. He's in the at the end of the issue when they're in Perrine Jewelry and there's the cat sitting there. That's Mr. Poe.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I am now more intrigued about this.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, the rogues have definitely stood out there too. Like I say, everybody that Dylan has come across has really kind of given him a different challenge, and this is something that especially establishing a young hero, you really want to make the villains get something out of them. And in this situation too, he has always been somebody that is still learning, obviously with the influence of two mentors. Has one really stood out more than the other as far as like the influence on him as being a hero?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I've been trying to approach everybody is especially with his mentors was this idea of like, every person who's like the book, it's called Rogue Son, but it's very much a family story. It's very much a story about a father and son, but it also is a relation. It's really a whole family element of it all, right? It's his relationship with his biological mother, Caleb. When I brought Caleb into the story, my concept was to make him more of a step parent. What it was like to have somebody who is so his approach to mentoring him was so visibly, or at least in the initial stages, so different than Marcus in the sense that he was more supportive and he opened up. Now, granted, you found out he had ulterior motives ultimately, but that was the thing that I liked about it was all these different people in his life, like Juliet is really the only stable adult he's had in his life ever. And so it's just really interesting to see the way he talks to her, the way that he has come to respect her, the way he listens to her. If you notice that, he listens to her way more than he ever listened to his actual mother, and father to a sense. So I really the idea is I was always thinking about it. It takes a village kind of approach, and every person that Dylan has come across has changed and shaped him in different ways, either for good or for bad. And the same thing with the villains, right? All of the villains, like you mentioned, Batman, Superman, the Flash. Spider-Man, the Flash. What I like about those villains, and what I always think is so cool, is when you design a new villain or you design any villain, they should, when they take on your hero, they should confront him and challenge something in him in a different way, a different part of his personality, a different part of who he is. For instance, like with Batman, right? Bane fights him physically. Riddler takes him on mentally. Joker takes him on philosophically. And so what I've tried to do with all of the villains in Rogue Son is have them approach and attack him and his family in different ways. They attack him morally. They attack him philosophically. They attack his perception of good and evil, all those things. And so whenever I create a new villain, it's the idea of I shouldn't be able to write the same story with Mr. Poe that I write with Mad Melody or with Blood Moon or with Hellbent. They should all be they could have the same plot, but they were going to have a very, very different way of approaching it. And I think that's the best way to do it, is use the Rogues Gallery as a way, almost like a therapy session for your main character.
Right on.
Great point.
And of course, not just the Rogues Gallery is kind of complicated. Dylan isn't exactly the Superman Boy Scout, is he? He's a little conflicted. So I want to know, what is the biggest challenges writing a hero that isn't exactly always heroic or a good guy, if you will?
It's always fun because I would make the argument now he's much better now than he was 30 issues ago. Which is good. I know I had a lot of people in the first 4 or 5 issues who read it who were like, I don't want to read this book. Can I swear? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
I don't want to read this book. He's an asshole. And I was like, yes, but he's a hero. He might get better or he could get worse. You don't know. But that's the point of the book is I don't want, if you want to go read a story about a squeaky clean, perfect person, there are tons of comic books you can go to already that will tell those stories, but I don't think there's if you want, Dick Grayson's a great character but he's perfect in so many ways. The only thing he ever has any real problems with is he has sort of issues with his own sort of self-confidence. That seems to be the one thing everybody sort of taps into, but he's so good at making every decision. And I love aspirational characters. They're fun. But to me, I'm much more involved. I like it way more when you have a character that is always sort of making one step forward, 2 steps back. Or 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's what I think he's trying to do with Dylan. I've tried to write a character that it was pointed out to me recently I thought was really interesting is he's an asshole, right? But if you think about all the other characters in the story that we perceive as good guys or bad guys, he's the only one who tells you exactly who he is and exactly what he wants. He's not playing you. He's not trying to manipulate you. He doesn't have ulterior motives. He tells you, I don't like this. I like that. I like you. I don't like you. Look at Ari. People think Ari's a nicer person. Ari's done a lot worse shit than Dylan has.
Yeah.
She released Demonica to kill him. She's the one who hacked into the Sunstone to try and get her dad back. Dylan is literally just flying around trying to save people's lives. He makes fun of people. I think that bullying thing really triggered some people at the beginning, which is totally fine. And I'm not going to say that he is not done doing that, because that is part of, okay, this is probably a longer thing, but if you ever had a friend that pushes buttons on other people and they love to do that, that's just the way they engage with people. It's just like, oh, they'll say the thing that everybody else in the room is thinking, and you're like, dude, why do you gotta say stuff like that? It's how they were raised, or it's part of their personality. That's how I feel like Dylan is with he's not great. He's never had anybody really show him affection. And I feel like that's what he doesn't really know how to handle. He's really look how bad he is. Like Brock, he locked his best friend. Sorry, Byron, his best friend. He locks in like a locker to make him help him with his homework. He forces him. He blackmails him into asking out girls. He's terrible with Vanessa. He doesn't know how to talk. He's really bad at showing emotion because he never had two parents to show him how to do that properly, and he's learning as he goes along. So I feel like he's got some bad habits that he has to break, but I think he's really trying. I actually don't think he's a bad person at the core.
No, the first time I read him, I was getting Jason Todd vibes. I mean, pre-Red Hood. Like I say, not him running around, going Frank Castle on everybody. But it was one of those situations. It took a while to warm up to him as a hero, because, obviously, with how he acquires the mantle and how he goes about it, it's like, are you really the right choice for this? And we have seen him get better as it's gone along. I mean, he's still not, perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he's redeemed himself in such a unique way. And whether it's by force or by just natural growing, it's a situation that you, as a reader, it's fascinating to watch him go along.
I'm glad. That makes me happy, because that was what I wanted that to be. The last arc, you literally see Marcus and Caleb fight over the fact that you picked the wrong person. You should have gone with Ari. And what I like about this is that Marcus is actually for the first time saying it, maybe, but there's something about this kid. I like the idea that Marcus looks at Dylan a little bit and goes, you're not doing it the way that I would do it. However, you are successful at this. The world's still here, so it's working out. Maybe just because you're not doing it my way doesn't mean you're not doing it the right way or doing it a proper way. And I feel like that's what the next arc is really going to be about, is really sort of pushing the perception, Marcus's perception of whether or not Ari or Dylan is probably the right person to take on the mantle. That's the big part of the next arc.
Yeah, I think it's a big draw to the book, to Rogue Sun, the fact that the hero's journey is actually such a growth journey. And it's not your traditional hero journey. It's not like, oh, here's the mantle, here's how I fit into the role, here's how I fight crime. It's actually almost more interpersonal. It's more like, hey, I didn't actually ask for this, and I'm working into it just like the normal hero's journey, but at the same time staying true to himself while growing. So I think that's super unique, because we're always used to just kind of the hero's journey being gets powers, now he doesn't know how to use powers, figures out how to use powers.
Exactly.
That's usually the hero's journey. Yeah. And in this case, it's more okay, yeah, there's that, but then there's this extra layer of okay, well, now I also have to work on myself, because I'm not the best at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know saying this is going to scare some fans, so I don't want it to say this. So I'm going to preface this by saying the book's not ending. I'm not ending the book, but I will tell you this. I outlined the last issue yesterday. I wrote down what I think the ending of the book is, to a pretty heavy extent, because in writing this last arc, the arc I'm writing right now, suddenly, I'd always looked at the series as I knew what the ending, I knew what an unending was going to be. And I had sort of two options I could go with. It was like Schrodinger's cat a little bit. I was writing towards both without having to pick one. And I finally, writing this arc, I went, oh, this isn't a choice anymore. This is the way we're ending the story. And so I wrote that. And now that can happen at any point, but I wanted to make sure that I had it in the moment that I wrote, that I came up with it, that I was like, oh, I think this is the ending of the series. And so I have that. and what I like about that is it helps me have something to like keep me. It's like my North Star now in regards to like if I'm writing a story and Dylan can zig or zag, knowing that that's my North Star will hopefully make some of those choices a little easier as I go. Because I just felt like I think I knew what I wanted the story to say, but I didn't know exactly how to say it. And now I kind of have that in my head as I go. And it's made things a lot easier.
Okay. Well, as long as that ending we don't see right away, because obviously the story is so good. Like I said,
Did you see that? Did you see that? He lost all sense. Like it looked like he was gonna pass out for a minute. He went like completely white. He there was a sigh of relief for a minute, but there was also this like taken aback that he really thought that this was coming to an end. He was like, "Oh no, he just says ending." But no, it's not.
Let's face it. This year we've had a couple great series end, and I'm like, I'm not ready to see great series keep ending. On my pull list. I want to go to the comic shops and have something to look forward to. And Rogue Sun is one of my go-tos. So awesome. I want to make sure it's going to be there for a while. So I like I say, it's been a rough year for good titles going away.
Oh yeah. So, yeah, I know.
So
I only say that and I bring it up not to scare anybody or make anybody think the books. It's just to show you that like I'm not like this isn't lost. I don't mean that in a terrible way. I'm not making this up as I go along. I'm not going to change it. Like I know what the story is now in a way that I don't think I fully knew 10 issues ago. Like I think 10 issues ago, I was like, oh, this could go left, this could go right. And now as I've been writing, I'm like, oh no, this is the path. And I'm happy. It makes things easier. It's actually it's a very sort of like it's a relief to know what you're doing and where you're going. Because it really helps keep the characters honest, and hopefully I won't write myself into a corner or something like that.
Well, right. As long as you know how to get from point A to point B, take the scenic route all day, because as long as you know where it's going to wind up, it's like it gives you a lot of liberty to take the characters in different directions. And that's one thing that you've done over this series too. Like one thing that I preach about this series to anybody that's asking me about like what Rogue Sun's really about, I'm like, expect the unexpected, because there are so many great twists and turns that happen that you're not going to see coming, that it really kind of takes the whole superhero story to a different level. And that being said, prior to what we're going to see in 30, which everybody needs to go pre-order, can't stress that enough, what has been your favorite moment of Rogue Sun to date?
I really, really loved doing the Choose Your Own Adventure issue. That was really fun. It was just like, it was an idea that I'd always wanted to do, and I loved those books growing up. And so the idea of doing one was really fun, but I wrote it with the guy that I'm currently co-writing the book with, Nick Cotton, who I've known for years. And because I brought him on because I was like, look, this is going to be a hard one. I need somebody. He's really into game science and stuff like that. So he just knows all that philosophy stuff. And so we started working on it, and he was the one who came up with the without spoiling it for anybody who hasn't read it yet. I apologize if I'm going to spoil it. Like the infinite loop that you couldn't get out of unless you cheated. We'd come up with that. Mm-hmm. And what I realized, what I loved about that was when that book comes up, it's the first, like Dylan is finally like, he's exiled his dad. He's going to make decisions himself. And so we love the idea that Choose Your Own Adventure came at the moment when Dylan has to finally start making choices himself and put the audience in the same spot to choose with him, and then get frustrated and then realize that the only way they can get out of this situation is to cheat and not make and not play someone else's game. So you have the same reaction that Dylan has. I really love that you could come out of that hopefully having that same, you went through the adventure with him. You made choices that you thought were the right choices and they didn't work out. And then you figured out a way to like beat the bad guy, and you come out of that thing and you're like, I did it. And I did it with you. And this is harder than I thought. And that was a really neat way to, I think, use that moment to really hopefully bond you with the character and make you go, oh, okay, this was it. And so it wasn't just a gimmick for gimmick's sake. It was a gimmick at a point in the story where that gimmick really helpfully created some empathy and some connection. So that's my favorite moment, I think, so far.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's funny you actually brought that one up, because that's in the liner notes. Like for when Rich and I were going over this, I'm like, when the moments like this is the moment. Like I say, if you read Rogue Sun like prior to it, yeah, you weren't sure about Dylan, but this is the issue, I think, is the turning point that you really kind of go along with him on that superhero journey. And plus, it's so creative. I can't stress that enough. Like, it absolutely blew me away. And then, like, it just solidified, being a Rogue Sun fan moving forward on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so both characters in the book, and this is guesses for people who might not have seen it, have a mentor, and both of the mentors, though, they both kind of seem, for lack
Dicey?
of a better term, they're not exactly angels, But so the question is, do you think Marcus and Caleb are two sides of the same coin, or how do you kind of look at them when you're writing them?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if they're like, that's a really good question. I don't know if they're two sides of the same coin, but I do think they are. I haven't had to think this through. I would say this. I think Caleb is somebody who he started, like, I think he thought when he was one of the first Rogue Sons, because he says he's the first Rogue Son, but there's obviously with the way that time went, and you made all those other ones that he's lying or something. I think he's just being egotistical. He was like, no one's going to check my math. But I think what I liked about that moment was he's somebody who died in the armor and thought that his memory, that he would be remembered for what he was. Like he thought, I gave my life to protect this world and I am the savior. And then he's watched every single Rogue Son after him die in a certain way, and no one cares, no one remembers. And I think ultimately, he got burned by that. I think he got frustrated watching people do the same thing over and over again, and all of them sort of, in his eyes, quote unquote, waste their lives and their sacrifice. Yes, they protect the world, but they don't get any of the praise, they don't get any of the adulation. I think he finally got sore of that. And so he's just more pragmatic than everybody else. He's just like, we got to change this game because this is going to happen to Dylan, and it's going to happen to the person after Dylan, it's going to happen to the person after them, and all that stuff. And so I think he's just frustrated with that. It's just somebody who's seen people make the same mistakes he did. I think for the Marcus, I don't think Marcus ever got that far. I don't think he hasn't seen 18 versions of the other Rogue Son. So he's just looking at it in regards to, this is the way I did it. And I don't like people questioning he's just arrogant. He's a very arrogant guy who's like, he believes in the way he did it. He believes he was right. And I think that comes out of the fact that his dad always told him he was wrong about everything. So he just had to basically sort of step that up, and you get that sense. So he's just so rigid because of that. So I think it's just the difference between somebody who's rigid and sort of inexperienced and somebody who is sort of like frustrated with trying. They're just parents trying to teach their kid, like, just do it this way and it'll be okay. And I think there's that frustration. But I don't know if their story's not entirely over, if that's the case. That conflict and that war of ideologies is not entirely done. But I don't know who's right. That's the other thing. I don't want to make I'm not saying one's right or the other. I think Caleb made some bad choices. I think Caleb, I don't necessarily, let me put this right. I don't know if I think his motives might have been correct, but I think his actions might have been a little hasty.
Yeah, he likes to go by the ends justify the means, but sometimes, not exactly.
Yes. No, not exactly.
Well, one thing we've mentioned previously is how the Massiverse has been like the Image 7, as far as we're talking blazing a new trail is where we go with superhero stories. And especially in this day and age, what do you think is the biggest challenge about doing superhero stories in the modern times?
Oh man, that's how much time we got. I think the hardest thing about it is telling new stories. Stories. Like, I think that's kind of one of the reasons I went with Dylan being kind of an asshole when I started. Was I was like, if I'm going to have anybody come and read this book, I guess my question was, it wasn't like it's not a marketing scam, but it's this, why, if you're going to pick up my book, what are you getting out of it that you're not going to get out of characters in the big two that have been doing this for a lot longer, have a lot of history and a lot of stories, and people are just more comfortable and familiar with. So you got to give them something new. It's kind of like a restaurant. It's like, if I'm going to have you come into my restaurant, I better make something there that you can't get at the Cheesecake Factory, right? Because they've got everything. So you've got to figure out something new. So that's the hard part, is like, there's a lot of books out there. So you've got to find something that sort of differentiates yours. And I think, the other part about doing superhero comics is like, it's that balance of finding something that's new but also that feels familiar. And I think one of the things that was really helpful for us is when we made the Massiverse, we weren't just making superhero comics. We were doing tokusatsu inspired comic books or superheroes. And there's a very specific style there. So we weren't trying to do our iteration of Superman, our iteration of Batman, our iteration. We were just saying, hey, we love this idea of transforming heroes, and we love this idea of sort of teenagers and millennials and people who are a little bit of the outcasts and sort of the, you know, the underdogs, and like, let's put them in situations where they have to find their own footing. And it was less about, I think a lot of modern day superhero stuff, unfortunately, just does iterations off of the big ones that you already know. It's the evil version of this one. It's the evil version of that one. It's Superman, but it's Batman, but, and I feel like you ultimately, I don't know if you can it's hard to tell a personal story, I think, when you are literally just trying to make a commentary on an existing superhero.
Right.
I think that's the mistake I've seen. I think you have to tell a story about something that you like. I will say this from the beginning: Rogue Sun, the first arc, is a metaphor for a divorce. It is Dylan being put in between his mother and his father, and both of them saying choose, because that's what I went through. And it just happens to be that those are both superpowered people, and he has to make a choice. And ultimately his choice is, I choose neither of you. Neither one of you are right. You guys are both doing this because you are angry at each other and not me, and I'm caught in the middle. And that's a personal story. And that wasn't me iterating off of any of the big two characters. I was just trying to tell a story about what it was like to be a child of divorce. And I know that sounds like pretentious, but it helps you figure out the nuance, and it helps you make choices that you're not just like going, oh, and then the hero fights the bad guy and they win. So that is what I like about it, is it allows you. So the long-winded answer to your question, unfortunately, is have something new to say and have something personal to say. And I feel like those two things, if you can do that, that will ultimately always make your superhero comics more accessible to people.
But that relatability that you just said is, I think, the reason why, what I mentioned earlier, it gives a unique take, because it's not the normal hero's journey. Make that person, like a lot of people have gone through being, you know, children of divorce or different situations. Yeah. So putting something like that there's a deeper meaning, actually, I think that's what endears the character in the story to people who are reading. And I think that's why the character is so over with the fandom, because it's kind of like, oh, wow, I can relate to that situation. Even though it's not exactly the same, they understand the subtext, if you will.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know Kyle's been on the record many times talking about, like, he's put it like the first page of Radiant Black is, I am in my car Ubering and I'm $30,000 in debt. And I'm like, yep, been there, buddy. So like, there is something about that is like very, like, Kyle has made it very personal about the book. And I think that's a good point. It's like trying to find stuff that, like, relatability, you know, and like, not all of us are, you know, wards of millionaires, you know, or from an alien from another planet. But with Superman, you know, you do that, the more you get nuanced about it and feel like the outsider and feel like you're somebody who, you know, wants to make the world a better place but doesn't know how to do it and all that stuff. So, like, I think that's why those things help. But if you're going to make something new, you just got to find a new angle on what you're talking about. You know, you have to have like I said, you got to have something to say. You got to have an opinion. Because if you don't, I think the readers can smell it real fast.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's stick with like the 90s, because we were just talking about the 90s era, talking about Image, but there's another 90s another 90s series, if you will, that you have looked into for variant covers. So the last few issues have had a strong X-Men homage to them. And it's recently announced that the covers that are going to be on the screen here, whose idea has it been to pay homage to that timeline for the X-Men?
That was like, we did variants for most of the run, but then we were just like, you know what? Like, it'd be fun to sort of just do versions of the books we love. I love the one we did. I think it was 26 maybe, which was the Days of Future Past one with Rogue Sun. And the funny thing was, for an issue I've been writing, there was a scene where Rogue Sun's protecting Ari, and you see all of the villains behind them, and it says where they all are. And I actually was like trying to write something into the character. I was like, oh man, I gotta check that variant cover to make sure that that's not a canon error. So I was like, oh, they're not on there. Good, I can use this. But so they are incorrect canon. But yeah, I think it's just like, we grew up with those. Like, I love those X-Men covers. I remember buying those. And like some of those first ones, that first Spider-Man, Superman, like one, the crossover that, you know, and then like the first Batman, like, it's just fun to like remind it. It's being like iterating off of that, but also sort of like paying homage and respect to the stuff that, you know, you watched and realized that all the people who came before you. So just fun to sort of play with that stuff. And I think the artists really love doing it too, because they can just cheat, which is even better.
Yeah. I mean, that time period has just got so many classic stories in it.
Yeah.
Which one would you say is your favorite X-Men story from that era?
Oh man. It's not an X-Men story. I know this sounds silly, but it's the scene. It might be X-Men 2. It's when they play basketball. It's with Gambit and Rogue playing Wolverine and Jubilee playing basketball.
I think it's 2. Yeah.
I don't know why that always like rings true, because they spend like half the issue just playing basketball. And I remember thinking, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And like, I don't remember comics taking that amount of time just being recreational. I remember like Gambit and Rogue go on a date that night, and she's picking out her outfit with Storm. And it's like, it was a very soap opera like kind of element. But I remember thinking, these are just real people. They're just like, they don't live in their costumes. They don't fly around on patrol protecting people. Like they just live in this thing. And I remember thinking how much I love that. Because I think when I played with my action figures after that, they're going to play basketball. Like I wasn't doing they were fighting Apocalypse. I was like, oh, what happens if they'll go to the bar down the street? Like I started doing that stuff. It's funny because it's like, I realized it's like those downbeats are really, you spend so much time with these characters. We love our characters, right? We love the X-Men. We know them. Like I can ask you a question about Wolverine. That's not about canon. I can ask you and go, what would he say? And you know what he's going to say because you know these people better than some of your friends. And so sometimes it's nice to just sit down with your friends and watch them talk about things. You know, I'm writing the Turtles Rangers crossover that I've been doing for like the last 3 or 4 years. And my favorite moments are having them talk about like, what are their favorite pizza toppings, or Donatello asking how the Green Ranger can play a flute with a metal mask on because he's just genuinely a fan and wants to know. And he's acting like us. Just remembering that these people are like us. It's fun to see the downbeat. So that's one of my favorite X-Men things. I think it taught me, I like that stuff just as much as I like the punching.
I mean, yeah, I always remember that too, because it like much how you touch upon like making personal for the readers, like it's relatable. Like you can understand like going to the park and shooting hoops, or going out on a date. Like you can relate to that, and especially showing that side of them. I think it made more of a connection because like, you know, at that time period, like you had a lot of, you know, really gritty anti-heroes. I always hate saying that word, but it's like that in that time period it was booming. But to see like normal, you know, heroes doing normal things, I guess I should say, it was so refreshing at the time, and it really kind of made that connection. Like that's why it always stands out too. Like those moments, even like way back when like when you used to have the Avengers versus the West Coast Avengers playing softball. Like
exactly.
Like these moments, like wait, what are they doing? Like aren't they supposed to be like planning to save the world? Like no, we're just playing best pickup game. It's like what? But it always remembers.
I think it's like comics are you know, a roller coaster. You just can't keep going up or down all the time. You got to go up, you got to go down, you got to go up and down. You got to remind people what they're fighting for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Well, this next question is going to be, this is perfect world. So this is perfectly open choice. This doesn't hold on. The world is your oyster. Obviously, Spawn was probably not only a great guest, but in a lot of ways, a perfect guest for Rogue Sun. But medieval Spawn in particular. But if you could pick another character from, I would say even any media, you know, not just comics, you could cross over in Rogue Sun. Mind you, licensing is not an issue. You're going to get the licensing. Who and why would you pick to join, you know, at least an issue as a guest star?
I might have to. I can't say that.
Gonna give too much away. Never mind.
Yeah. This is so weird. I can't believe I'm saying this. Aeon Flux.
Really?
You know, here's why. I want to see Rogue Sun's design in that world. That style. That's what I want to see. So if I could cross over Rogue Sun into Aeon Flux, because I would just love. Also, Dylan, like watching all that stuff happen in real time, would just be like, what the hell is going on? Is she like attacking a fly with her eyelashes? Like it just would be really funny. I just love the design of Aeon Flux when I was a kid, and I just think seeing Rogue Sun in that would be really cool. That's my honest off the cuff answer.
No, that works perfectly.
Actually, it's a great answer, especially now I'm envisioning that the art would be great.
Be amazing,
It'd be
right? Like that
different.
style
Yeah.
and that visual,
yeah.
and how long everybody was. Like Rogue Sun would look awesome in that world. Yeah,
That'd be incredible.
Or okay, the comic answer, Ghost Rider. Just
Okay.
because I think the
That make a lot of
flames and
sense.
the chains and stuff, that'd be the all flames and chains. Like my favorite issue ever of one of my comics ever is, I think it's Todd McFarlane Spider-Man number 7. It's the one with Hobgoblin, Ghost Rider, and
yeah.
Spider-Man. Yeah. I am convinced. I know Todd has said that he came up with Spawn in when he was in high school, and I believe him. But I also believe he drew that book and went, wait a minute, Hobgoblin's cape with Ghost Rider's chains and Spider-Man's outfit at Spawn in a nutshell. It's like everything Todd loves to draw is in that one issue or that 2-issue miniseries.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That now that you point that out, I'm never going to be able to unsee it.
Yeah.
But it works though. Like I say, with
It
everything
works.
going on with, with Spawn, and of course we can't reiterate it enough. Rogue Sun 30 is going to be an issue you want to see with Medieval Spawn and Rogue Sun, Night Sun, I should say, doing some business. But then after that, I know we kind of teased that obviously the end is very, very far away for Rogue Sun, thankfully. But
I will repeat, it is not ending. I'm not ending the book. Yeah.
Yes. But issue 31 has been teased. So can we briefly discuss what we should be looking forward after that issue 30 comes out?
Yes. So 31 will return back to the present day, and will feature Dylan and Ari sort of settling into their roles as the dual Rogue Sons. However, and the central conflict between them will be like, now that they're sort of working together, it's like, who's better? And as we saw in the 29, Marcus is now is mentoring both of them at the same time. So this could turn into a little bit of like, who does dad like more? At the same time, like, we're also going to see Dylan's going to go on a class trip because he started talking in 25. He was, Mr. Abernathy came to him and said, like, if you don't want to do this anymore, there's an opportunity for you to go to college. There's an opportunity for you to live a life outside of being a superhero. And so Dylan's actually he hasn't quite made his decision on what he wants to do and if that's an actual option. And so he's going to go to college and he's going to check out what it's like to live in that world. And so we're going to see a 17-year-old kid go to a school and see what happens there. And hijinks will ensue. And we also have a new villain that we're popping up in this series that I'm really proud of, that I love, called Mr. Poe, who is a cat. And maybe our meanest and darkest character we've shown on the book so far. I think maybe he's pretty fun. I don't want to say too much, but there's a specific reason we bring in this character at this point in the series, and you'll see why when you get to the book. So that's a tease. I know. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Yeah, no. The more Mr. Poe we can tease, the better. Because like I said, when we talked about earlier, I'm excited now. You're going back to it. It's like, that's the beauty of the series. Because like I say, it's long-term storytelling. It's mixed in with a lot of elements that we see in superheroes that we want to see, and especially flawed characters and how they overcome these flaws to be better people. That is the gist of Rogue Sun in a nutshell. And that's why everybody really, if you haven't picked up the series yet, you need to get involved with it. Issue 30 is going to be one. Trust me, everybody's going to be talking about it at the comic shops and then post there. It's absolutely going to keep snowballing from there.
I will say this. All the Mr. Poe teases are great because at Nerd Initiative, we used to love QR codes.
Yes.
We still like them, but we used to love them. But what we really love is cats. Like, we're fans of cats at Nerd Initiative. Yeah. If Tom was here right now, he'd be freaking out. So now we have another cat to talk about. We love the Thundercats. We love Feral, and we'll love to hate Mr. Poe, because I'm assuming
love to hate Mr. Poe.
I'm assuming we're gonna have to love to hate him.
Yeah, the whole inspiration from it was I was watching a TikTok video and I saw this guy had a hoodie on and it was backwards, so he had the hood like here, right? And there was a cat in the hood, and he was like, "Don't you love me?" And the cat looked at him and slapped him in the face. And I thought, that's a supervillain.
Cats are supervillains.
They are.
If you think about it,
they hear through your soul, man. They see stuff that no one else sees.
Yeah, you tell them to stop. No, don't knock that off the table, and they just look at you right in your eyes and go, "There it goes." Exactly. They know who's boss. They know.
Yeah, but exactly.
I would be remiss if I didn't hijack the show like I normally do for a question, and so this is not going to be comic book related at all. As this interview will be released, it will actually be the kickoff to the NFL season.
We're having a great
And,
conversation, and now you go. All right.
And I need to have the hand grenade and pull the pin and throw it in the room because I mean, I'm out of this. I'm a Raiders fan. The lovable losers that we are. But the two of you are AFC East rival fans. As we know, Ken is a Buffalo Bills, a proud member of the Bills Mafia. And Ryan, you are a Miami Dolphins fan. The grenade is in the room. How are the Dolphins going to do this season? Are they going to finally be able to shut down those stinky Bills?
No, they're not. I am not going to. That's not a grenade I'm falling on anytime soon. Until they prove they can beat the Bills are always going to beat the Dolphins. Although it was a lot closer in Miami this year than it was last year.
Yeah, it was.
That was a 60-yard field goal to win that game. So it's funny how we forget. We're like, oh, they killed them. I'm like, they won on a Jordan Poyer knocked out Keon Coleman and gave you guys 15 yards on third and whatever. I'm not going to get specific. But I think I will just say this. I think that the Dolphins are going to be better this year than people expect. It seems to be very popular this year to just think that they're going to implode and be terrible. I don't think that's the case. I think if Tua stays healthy, I think they'll be just fine. I don't think they're going to – I think Buffalo's going to win 13 games, though. So, I don't think that the Dolphins will be able to beat them, but I do think that the Dolphins can come in second and get a wild card if I'm hopefully knock on wood.
Do you think McDaniels is on hot seat if they don't?
I do not. I think they're going to probably start 4-1. I think they have a pretty easy schedule to start. And they have a rough run in the middle where they play Baltimore and Bengals and somebody in the it's a rough and Washington back to back to back. So I think that's gonna it's Buffalo, Baltimore, and Washington. That's not gonna work out. But I don't think here's what people forget: the Dolphins went 8-9 last year, but they lost 5 games. Because Tua didn't play quarterback. And the games he was there, they won a lot of games. I think they win 65% of the games when Tua plays. So if Tua's healthy, they're fine. They also won 8 of their last 11 games. That's not a team that quit on McDaniels. I think it's just become, I think with the Tariq stuff and, there's they are a team that does not, they've got a few people on there that talk too much. And I think that's the problem. And it's just it's very, very popular to, Tua, for some reason, gets a lot of hate. I don't quite know why.
Even as a Bills fan, I don't understand that. I think
he's not that bad.
You just have to give him a line that protects him, and he's fine. But the thing is, the Dolphins never do. For whatever reason, is they just don't give him any protection, and he takes really bad hits. And it's guys, he is the key to your success.
Those I will say this as a fan, and I remember when Hamlin got hurt on that Monday night game. For the Bills, I gave money to his charity within 30 seconds of that thing. That broke me. That scared me in a way that I don't know why. I think maybe everybody was oh wow, these guys are real. They're real people. And there was something about that moment that I really think. And I think to his injuries, the two that he's had, because they look so the camera's there, they scared people, and so maybe people are thinking he should retire because they don't want to see what happened to Hamlin happen to Tua or something. Maybe I'm connecting stuff that's not connected. I don't quite know why people seem to dislike him so much. I don't know if it's the religious things always seems to Tebow kind of thing. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to turn it into that, but it does feel like he gets an abnormal amount of heat for somebody who hasn't why do we like Baker Mayfield so much more than Tua? They're not.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, to be honest with you. I think it's just people. I think it's just that one camera angle after his real bad second injury where they focus on the hands.
Just slide, you son of a bitch.
Yeah,
but I don't think that and I understand. To me, I don't hate it. The only thing that I think Tua is a very talented football player, a very talented quarterback. The only thing I've ever been judgmental about is when they asked him if he'd wear the Guardian helmet, and he was like, no.
Yeah,
he was just you've taken, and it's just you've taken some pretty massive shots to the head. If anybody should be championing, wearing a more protective helmet, it should be you, not just for himself, but for others. Because if a very good athlete is wearing that, who's worried about head injuries, it might help out somebody else who might be on the cusp who has also had head injuries. But but that's not me hating him. I think he's still very talented. I just questioned hey, one more good hit to the head and who knows? It was scary watching him look at his hands and And it was weird.
Yeah.
Like, and you realize that at that moment, he doesn't know what's going on. And it's very scary, but I don't think that people should hate him for that though.
Yeah. I almost wondered, and this is just maybe my conspiracy theorist element of it, was like when he was so quick to say no to the helmet, I'm like, does that mean it doesn't protect you as well as everybody's pretending that it does? Like, it was like that thing. I almost wondered, like, did he talk to some specialists and they were like, it's not going to change anything if you get hit that way. You could have 6 layers of padding, it's not going to change it. I just wondered if it's like that, you're susceptible, that's not going to fix it. I don't know.
Maybe, but I also think that it's kind of like he is in a lot of ways a throwback to that old school, tough quarterback. Like that's the reason he takes the hits is because
could he be like a little less tougher? Could he be more Eli Manning or just
yeah. That's what. But think about it. I think that's part of it is he has that throwback. Like he's definitely more of that. I know it's a dirty name to throw around sometimes, but Brett Favre, Troy Aikman, kind of like I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and if I have to take a nasty hit to do it, so be it. And I mean. Yeah. The game is different now. I mean, and I'm not saying those guys didn't get hit hard because let's be honest, they did. They did and everything. But now you're looking at you got to look at the athletes now. You have defensive ends that are 320 pounds that are running 4.7 40s. Like they're running faster than running backs ran back in the 90s, and they're 315 pounds, mostly 6'5". And you get hit by one of those guys, it's like getting hit by a full on
freight train. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that look, I'm happy he's trying to run for those 5 extra yards, but is it worth 5 games? Like that's where I'd be like, it's okay, dude. Throw the ball on the ground. Let's live to play another day. I don't want to see you get hurt. I like you too. I like him as a person. I think he's a respectful person. I think he's nice to people. I like his morally, he seems good. Like there's a lot of things about him that I really, really enjoy. And so I'm rooting for him, not even just because he's in my team. Like I'd root for him if he played for another team. I just like him. I like Josh Allen a lot. Josh Allen's a good guy. I love that when he got his MVP. Was he at the MVP or was when he got the MVP and he thanked the guy who licked in the mailroom, I was like, dude, how can you not love that? I don't want to see anybody get hurt. So I just want Tua to play smart and hopefully make my team, play well so I can watch them win a playoff game and we can stop having people talk about that.
Yeah, I mean they have all the potential if they can just put it together, but like I say, it goes on Tua, and I agree with you. I don't understand why he gets as much hate as he does because he's doing everything he physically can to do something for this team, and it's just I don't know. I feel like they just don't give him enough like a support on the line to do it. And
no, you're dead right about that.
Yeah. Like that's like the criminal shame about him in all honesty, because you have a great wide receiver pair, running game is great. Tight end, I was surprised they made the trade, but it is what it is. But either way, you got to keep them in the game too. But they never go out and go get anybody dynamic on defense too. Like that's the one thing that hurts them, I think, the most.
Well, I think their pass rush is pretty awesome. Like Chop Robinson and
secondary
and Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. Like secondary. Oh yeah, we let everybody go. We're riding with Storm Duck. Let's do that. But yeah, I think let's see. I'm happy. I'm happy Minkah Fitzpatrick's back. That's cool. Jalen didn't want to be there. It was very clear. Jalen is as good as a player he is, and I don't want to talk trash, but that guy is the biggest front runner in football. Like he only wants to go to the team where he's going to get paid, and he can be that. He can play on an island and do that, and that's fine. Hey, if you got the power and the minute and ability to do that, that's cool. But that's not a guy who's he's not Tony Gwynn. He's not going to play for one team for his, and that's fine. It's a business. That's cool. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys out there. They do that, but I like a lot of things about the Dolphins. I'm optimistic, and that could all change at 10:15 on Sunday morning, my time. So we'll see. But I'm really happy it's back. So the small thing that I like bragging about, my dad was a high school football coach for 16 years. And Jordan Love was one of his players. So it's
really,
so we always I'm a side Packer fan as well because he's a good kid.
Well, we'll end it with this. Do you have your Super Bowl prediction ready?
Oh man, I'd probably pick the.
Ooh.
Bengals.
Ooh.
And no, not the Bengals. I take that back. They don't have a defense. I think maybe this is your year. I think this is probably maybe the Bills against, and I don't think it's going to be the Eagles again. I would say the Bills versus the, I think Washington's going to have a regression. Who's below the, who's in the, let's say Bills Detroit. Let's do a Bills Detroit Super Bowl.
I tell you, I think Detroit, the only thing that worries me with them is both coordinators leaving.
That is true. I probably
especially with Ben Johnson going to the Bears. Yeah. Like, how bad is the offensive coordinator is now going to go fix the Bears?
I should have said that. I should have said Bills, Bears, and then Kyle would have like called me within 30 seconds being like, dude, my man.
I honestly think the Bears are going to be the most improved team in the league this year.
Oh, I mean, absolutely.
I just think that, you just let Johnson work with Caleb Williams, and they actually got weapons around him on offense. I think they'll be fine. But no, I think it's going to be Green Bay, honestly, getting there.
That's as good as any. I mean, Mika, everybody's like super excited about it. So like that was, I know that was a weird way to do
century.
Yeah.
The heist of this. Madden won't even let you make that trade. I'll be honest. The Packers could be good put together. Still kind of young, so I don't know. But that's definitely a giant piece.
If Jordan takes that leap and and that offense like really kicks in and he starts making them better, like they got all the pieces. They got the cold weather ability. Like I do think the craziest thing about football is that it's the one sport where in the playoffs it feels like the weather becomes the most important thing. Like think about this in every other sport. Baseball, they don't play if there's rain. Basketball, they play in a dome. It's always every court's the same size and the same temperature. Everything else, but football, they're like, hey, everybody's got to go play in Wisconsin or New York in 3 degrees. It's like it's the only time that happens. I don't know why that sport is so weather dependent. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd co-sign the Packers possibly, but then again, you can't count the Eagles out because I think, especially if they can put it together for a second year in a row. And I think I will say this. I think it's the Bills. It has to be the Bills because if they don't do it this year, that window's got to be closing. Like there's got to be a sense of urgency for the Bills because other teams are getting better and they have to, it's now or never.
Yeah, they may outlaw it if the Kansas City Chiefs make it again. They might we might have to just like excommunicate them from the league for a year.
Yeah, there'll be some ramifications for that. Trust me.
Yeah.
Like
I do think the Raiders. I think Geno will be better than people expect. I saw this crazy stat the other day where like in a dome or in like a roof, he is like his touchdown to interception rate is like 4-1. It's just like he has crazy stats in a dome. He's a different player, and you guys are going to be in a dome for half your games this year. So,
I think Geno will be all right. I think he's going to be a lot better than people think. I think the Raiders are going to do better than they did last year. There's going to be improvements. I think the biggest piece to that also is Geno's going to have some really good checkdowns. Brock Bowers, obviously one of the best tight ends. And then of course, if Genty is half as good as we think he's going to be at the halfback position. It could be a real good time for the Raiders. So I think that'll actually take a lot of pressure off of Geno, and it'll give him a lot of check down too, which is going to be clutch, especially like you pointed out, being in a dome atmosphere, and he's a good in the dome atmosphere is going to be very helpful to him. So I think they'll do better. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, although they could surprise me. I thought they weren't going to make the playoffs in a year that they did. So who knows? We'll find out.
We'll find out.
But in the meantime, though, the season does kick off this weekend, but you have to get to the comic shops beforehand and make sure you pre-order Rogue Sun 30. We can't stress that enough. It is an issue that everybody's going to be talking about. And if you're not familiar with the Massiverse, this is the perfect time to get into it. It's comics' most exciting line for a reason, folks. If you love superhero books, this is one to go check out. And Rogue Sun delivers every single time out. It's never a bad read. It's always going to keep you on your toes. It's always going to give you something. Ryan, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show talking about this. We definitely have to recap after the arc comes out here.
Absolutely, man. Thank you guys. It was an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everything you do for the book and all the kind words. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. It's our pleasure. And honestly, folks, you have to get to the comic shops. The FOC is September 22nd. It's in the liner notes of this podcast and YouTube show. So definitely make sure to go early and go get multiple copies. You don't want to miss this. On behalf of Rich and myself, we'll end it like we always do on Turn a Page. Thank you for checking us out. And remember, when you're at the comic shops and you have a great issue in your hand, such as Rogue Sun number 30 by Ryan Parrott, and you see somebody struggling to find something, hand them a copy. Tell them to turn a page. We'll see you next time.
We're out.
This program is powered by Fantasyverse, where manga, comics, and more collide. Check their website out because it's not a dream. It's Fantasyverse. The content you've just watched is part of the Nerd Initiative Network. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to check out nerdinitiative.com, the home of pop culture positivity.